morning, everybody. This is from Brew in a Bag Homebrew Adventures, and haven't made a video in a while, but I thought I'd do a video of, or attempt to do a video of, a Great Lakes Christmas Ale clone. I put it together from all the forums, and then I looked up some of the interviews with the brewers from Great Lakes and some of the stuff that they told you when to add stuff. So I'll put the recipe down in the notes, and I'll try to take this through all the way to tasting and see how it works. But hopefully it will turn out good. I can't wait to try it a couple weeks from now. So thanks. Well, I got all my grains doughed in, and I wanted to show you my Brew in a Bag thermal cover that I made out of some Reflectix. I'm holding at like 154 right now, and what I did was I doughed everything in and checked the pH of the water, and then added some phosphoric acid, about 5 or 7 milliliters, because of my water here in Mansfield, Ohio is got a lot of alkalinity, so using the acid helps bring down the pH down to 5.2, 5.3 where you need to be. And I'm using the Brewer's Friend software, and I'm tracking the mash right now with it. This software is free for a while, and it's like $9-10 a year, and it's great because you can put all your recipes in there, and actually you can find me in there with the recipes. I got them on there public, the ones that I've done. So I will be mashing for 60 minutes. I'm trying to hold that temperature about 154, 155. I may have to turn on the burner for a couple seconds and get the temperature back up, but you got to be really careful of that, because you don't want to scorch your bag, which I've done before, and put a hole in it. But I got a lady that sews in our neighborhood, and she put some, believe it or not, wedding lace to patch it. So we're going to go for another 55 minutes or so, and I'll be back. I got done mashing, had to tweak the temperature a couple times just to keep it up to about 155, but got to be careful about scorching the bag. But I wanted to show you too what I do with the pulley up on top of my garage, and then I took a bucket and drilled a bunch of holes in it, so it's like a huge colander. So I first take the bag out and put it into the bucket with the holes in it inside of another bucket. I get my brew kettle in place, and then use the pulley to keep it over. Now I can sparge really easily into this. The reason I have to sparge is I got an 8-gallon kettle, so I can't put the total amount of water that's needed in there. I collected all the wort, and I took a sample so I could test it when it cools down for its volume, or I'm sorry, for its gravity. And I collected a little bit more than the 6.61, so I increased my boil time by about 10 minutes. We'll see how that rolls. Now this is right where the brewery says for the Great Lakes Christmas Ale to add your honey. You don't add it on flame out, you don't add it at 60 minute, you add it at right around 130 degrees when you've got all your wort collected, and you're now coming up to temperature for boil. So the recipe, I figured, takes, I'm just going to pour a whole thing of 1.8 ounce, which is 1.5 pounds of honey. My recipe says 1.375, but this is just easier. You probably leave a little bit left inside this thing. So it's just regular pure clover honey, I believe, and it is all 100% fermentable, but I'm going to do what the brewery says, and they do the honey right now, and they stir it in, and then right when at the 60-minute mark is when they take an ounce of ginger, which what I did was I got an ounce of ginger and I just cut it up and put it in a container overnight just so it wouldn't get dried out, and then equal amounts of cinnamon, so cinnamon sticks. So an ounce of each weighed out, and I do that at 60 minutes, and that's what the brewer does too on that. So I'm just getting up to boil temperature. I'm going to get the honey inside, and then we'll get it up to a boil, and we'll go from there. Okay, we're up to a boil here. As you can see, it got through the hot break and without a boil over. And so I'm just taking my ginger and my cinnamon in a muslin bag here, and I'm going to throw it right in there at 60 minutes. And I can take that and just kind of loop it around here so it doesn't fall off. Sorry, it's hard to do this without and not burn myself. So we're letting that go in at 60 minutes, and now we got to go get our first edition, which I got these things at Dollar General, and I just numbered them 1 through 6, and I can pre-weigh them and get them all ready to go. And I know this is edition number 1 because I did finish school, and that's a number 1. So I'm just going to take off the lid and I'm going to dial this in. So I'm going to get number 1 in, and better have both hands on this because this might get a little hairy with it foams up and stuff. Okay, I got my first edition in, the 1 ounce of Mount Hood. At 30 minutes it's another ounce of Mount Hood, and then finally at 15 or 10, one of the two, it's you'll see it on the recipe, but it's an ounce of Cascade. Easy to, I guess, measure out since they come in 1 ounce packets. The one thing I wanted to describe here that you can't get on video is the smell of that cinnamon and ginger. It is just awesome with the boiling wort smell. I wish you guys could smell it. It just smells so good. This might be the reason why they do it at 60 minutes and not at flame out, because it probably makes the entire brewery smell like Christmas ale, which is not a bad thing. Okay, here we are at the final edition. It's an ounce of Cascade, and Cascade is, I love the smell of Cascade and Simcoe. I mean, the hops are so good smelling when you're making this stuff. So we're just going to put the last one in, and that's that. And I've been just dunking my muslin bag here a bunch of times, and now I can put in my immersion chiller and get it hooked up and start cooling it off. Okay, well, now we are done with the boil, and I measured it, and we are right around 5.5 gallons of wort. It still smells awesome, and you can see all of the proteins starting to coagulate. I threw the Werflock in there. This is just a cheap immersion chiller I got from, I believe, AIH. Okay, now we are down to pitching temperature, and my bag is nice and swelled up, and so that tells me that it's producing CO2 and that it's viable. And nice thing about that, I don't have to do a starter or anything. I see a bunch of videos where you have to do starters and stuff, and I just, it's my first time doing it. It says you don't have to do a starter. I'm gonna go with it. I'm not gonna even worry about it. But what I do is I grab this at Walmart, just kind of a strainer basket. Now, anything after boil, of course, you have to do a let me turn the light on here. Anything after boil, you have to do a sanitization. So the fermenter is sanitized, the strainer is sanitized. I have to sanitize the spout of my and they always say on all these videos do not fear the foam. So I don't fear the sanitizer stuff. And sanitization is important. I don't go like overboard, but I mean I do it for everything that the beer is going to touch after it's been boiled. Okay, well now I have collected like 5.5 gallons of wort, and I was almost spot on, but I added a little bit of RO water just to make it exact. But I took a sample and I tasted the sample and it tasted just like, I mean, I know it's not carbonated, it's not fermented, but that ginger taste really stands out in the sample I tasted. And I'll check out the after boil OG before I pitch the yeast. And just on schedule, I've got this bloated looking London yeast, London ale yeast. So I know that it's viable, ready to go, and I'm going to pitch it in there. And because I only have 2 hands, I have to put the camera down and do that. But I'll pitch the yeast, and we'll see how it goes here in a couple days, and it should be starting to ferment by tomorrow. Here we are about 29 hours after pitching, and as you can see, it's really starting to take off now. I actually had to bring it upstairs from my basement. It's getting kind of cold in the basement, so I had to bring it up here, and I put a heating pad on it and got the temperature up to 68, 70 now. And so here we are, just over a day, and we're chugging away. Well, here we are. This is Tuesday around 8 o'clock p.m. and so it's like 2 days since I pitched, and 48 hours, and you can see this thing is just humming. And I had to bring it back downstairs again because once that 1028 yeast started to take off, it started to generate a lot of heat. I have it in my cool basement now, and it's at 72, right at the outer edge of what 1028 is supposed to be at, which is 60 to 72 degrees. I'm hoping this cold basement floor will help keep it chilled a little bit. But day 2, we're chugging away.